In nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti, Sancti Spiritus, repletuorum codifiterium, et tua moris in eis in accende, emite spiritum tuum creabuntur,
et habis facem terre.
Oremus, Deus codifiterium, Sancti Spiritus, illustrationis ocubisti, da nobis in enim spiritu recta sapere, et Deus immigrationis in gaudere, per Christum Dominum nostrum.
Amen.
Cum Maria Immaculatum.
Ora pro nobis.
Sancte Joseph.
Ora pro nobis.
Sancte Filippe.
Ora pro nobis.
Sancte Jacobe.
Ora pro nobis.
Patris et Filii Sancti. Page 74, Apologetics. The philosophical truth of miracles, which looks to the supernaturality of the cause of a miracle. So we're looking at the possibility of miracles, those who deny miracles, the knowability of miracles we're on now. A common sense, or the laws of cause and effect. Where there's smoke, there's
Fire.
Or the law of sufficient reason, point to the necessity that every effect have a corresponding adequate cause, which if not found in nature, we are compelled to claim another causality. So if it's not found in nature, it has to come from above nature. 1. If the effect surpasses the powers of material creation. If the effect of the miracle surpasses the power of material creation. A, Michael?
Anything which presupposes creation, that is, production of a destroyed organ instantly, multiplication of breed,
Of bread.
of bread, walking on water, giving life to things that don't have any disposition for life, as the raising of Lazarus.
All right, so these miracles, how do you explain them at a natural level? You just can't. Like the girl cured by Padre Pio, they took out her bladder and then she suddenly had one through his intercession. B.
To enter and move the soul, such as the heroic acts, or to make known the inmost secrets of the heart.
Yes, like St. John Vianney, asking penitents, let's see, you forgot to confess that sin 20 years ago at such and such a place, such and such a time. Oh, I forgot about that, Father. Thanks. So reading of hearts. C.
To see future events, which are absolutely contingent.
Yes, which may or may not happen. So if you and I say, well, on June 28th, the sun is going to rise. Is that a prophecy?
No.
No, it's going to happen. It's a metaphysical reality.
Educated guess.
No. So obviously that's not in the same. Contingent means it may or may not happen. All right. 2, if an effect which nature can produce, if an effect of the miracle which nature can produce, but in a way totally inadequate. A, Anthony?
Curing of leprosy or calming a storm by a mere command. B, restoring of sight by application of mud to the eyes, or an instantaneous cure by a touch of the hand.
Yes, so objections. The same objection has been made since time of Baruch Spinoza, that, quote, we do not know all the forces and laws of nature, and therefore one cannot know if this or that miraculous fact surpassed every natural force of nature. Go on, Anthony.
It is true to say that there are certain areas where nature's potential is uncertain, but that there are also areas where we know the limits and laws of nature. Therefore, it is not necessary to know the whole of nature. The knowledge of some separate laws and forces connected with the miracle is sufficient to allow us to recognize positively the extra-natural character of a resuscitation from death or the standing still of the sun. It is enough to know that the powers actually employed in a given set of circumstances were incapable of producing such an effect, such as a bit of mud or saliva or the touch of a hand to instantly cure someone.
Go on.
We do not know indeed positively all that the forces of nature can do, but we do know negatively what nature cannot do. Common sense also tells us that there are certain effects that can be produced by God alone, which knowledge is perfected by philosophy. These are metaphysically certain truths.
A. God alone can produce being inasmuch as it is being, for to produce being absolutely is to affect it ex nihilo, which means?
Out of nothing.
Read on, Anthony.
Transubstantiation is essentially the change of being inasmuch as it is being, for it is the conversion of the whole substance of bread into the whole substance of Christ, or the coexistence of two bodies in the same place.
Give an example of coexistence of two bodies in one place.
Two bodies in the same place.
Was Christ's body a ghost after he rose from the dead?
No.
No.
Did he pass through a stone wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
So his physical body passed through a physical stone wall. How does that happen?
Also, it's two substances, you could say, in the same place at the same time, even though they're completely separate and disconnected.
Right, and that doesn't happen in nature. So this is an example of another miracle. So, yes. So let's see. So yes, God alone can produce being as A, inasmuch as it is being, for to produce being absolutely is to affect it out of nothing. B, God alone can produce matter. For example, Anthony?
The multiplication of loaves.
Yeah, new matter, just out of nowhere. C,
God alone can immediately change material substances. For example, as to suddenly educe the form of wine out of the matter of water.
yes, and D,
God alone has immediate power in the intellective soul, intellect and will. For example, in prophecy or miraculous conversions.
yeah, to know the future which no one else, not even the devil, can know. And then miraculous conversions, which are the highest miracles. 3, theological truth of miracles. Read on, brother.
Here it is necessary to defend true miracles from false ones, for many miracles of the third order are only known with a moral certitude. Some effects do not surpass the powers of all created agents, even spiritual, whence it is necessary to consider from the circumstances, physical, moral, and religious, the nature of the work, and determine if it proceeds from a good or bad spiritual agent.
A, the extent of the powers of the fallen angels. Read on.
St. Augustine says that no sure judgment can be made of their powers.
De Trinitatis. St. Thomas, prima pars, question 114. He goes through all the angels. Prima, question 110. Says the pure spirits can use the powers of nature and can influence the interior and exterior senses of man. So they have some effect on man at the sense level, says St. Thomas. Read on, brother.
The angels have a much deeper of the powers,
A deeper knowledge.
much deeper knowledge of the powers of nature than man, and so have a greater control. For example, Prophet Habakkuk, taken by the angel to feed Daniel. The praying angel kills
Assyrians.
the angel of the Passover. They can also use our dark natural powers. For example, telepathy,
Hypnosis.
hypnosis, mind control, They can also take matter and make the appearances of persons. Angels can directly influence the fantasy.
Angels can directly influence the fantasy. Phantasma is what your eyes and senses perceive. So in Compton we pray, we delivered from evil phantasms. Anyone know where that is?
In the Te Lucis. In the Procure ceda somnia et noxium phantasmata.
Yes. They can also go.
They can also control the organs and senses of the body as well as the passions. This indirectly they can influence our will.
Yeah, so the devils can see if you're angry. They can see if you're, daydreaming. They can see if you're distracted. They can see if you're focused. They can read all this, and they're really smart. They've had 6,000 years of experience with human nature. B, criteria to distinguish false miracles from true ones. How do you know what's true? How do you know what's false? And Gabriel?
Following St. Thomas and Pope Benedict XIV, who says that, quote, false miracles are to be discerned from true ones by efficacy, utility, manner, end, person, and occasion. End quote. De beatificatione servorum Dei, concerning the beatification of the servants of God.
All right, and all these references. So 1, physical circumstances you got to look into. 2, moral circumstances. And so this is all, how do you know if it's a true visionary or not? How do you know if it's a true miracle or not? These are some guiding guidelines laid down by Pope Benedict XIV and St. Thomas. So firstly, physical circumstances. Go on.
Quote, that a healing be considered miraculous, it must be 1, that the sickness or cure be impossible or very difficult. 2, recovery must not have already begun. 3, without the use of medication, except what has proven ineffectual. 4, the healing must be sudden. 5, a perfect healing. 6, without any notable crises proceeding. 7, nor a return to the sickness once removed.
So those are physical circumstances to tell if it's a true miracle. 2, the moral circumstances.
By which the aforesaid facts can be discerned from the prodigies of the demons. 1. Quod seu propter qui. Why or for what? What was the end of the miracle? Which must always be the glory of God, as either to confirm a doctrine revealed by God, or the sanctity of some servant of God, both as to intention and effects.
So Christ refused to work any miracles for Herod, for example. Don't throw your pearls to swine. So if Christ did work miracles before Herod, what would have been the end, the purpose? For the glory of God? Were they open to that?
No.
No, they would have mocked him more. So this is why a priori you can suspect that the new Mass miracles are very dubious, because if there's miracles at the new Mass, that means God
favors it.
God approves the new Mass. So that's why we are right as Catholics to be ultra careful about new Mass miracles. And that's why I did, when Bishop Williamson was alive, and he was pushing this in his last 10 years, unfortunately. In one of my letters, I said, don't you consider this reckless? It's reckless to be promoting these new Mass miracles when we have mountains of true miracles of the Tridentine Mass in history. Don't you think it'd be safer, I said, to promote those miracles because it's quite reckless for souls to believe in these new Mass miracles, which means that God approves the new Mass. That means that I could go to it. So, number 2, quid fit? What happens? What is done? Quid fit? What is done? Go on.
If the extraordinary fact is in whatever way contrary to either the truth or honesty, or is ridiculous, it is not the work of God, but of the devil.
Yeah, ridiculous. Hindus living on a bed of nails, for example. Buddha's fighting with Serpent King turned his whole body into fire. Water out of Zeus, fire and of others. The Muslims say about Muhammad that Muhammad cut the moon in half. So these are ridiculous. They're not true miracles, And a lot of them are by the power of the devil as well. 3, aquo fit. Aquo, by whom fit is it done?
By their morals and doctrines conformed to right reason, in a zeal for God's honor, humility, modesty, charity. If a person has all this, then such miracles are true. If the person, however, has vices, is proud, morally bad, inconstant, restless, impatient, it proposes a doctrine manifestly unreasonable, irreligious, immoral. Any prodigies done are evidently not divine.
Yes, so by whom is the miracle done? Right? If it's a saint and a saintly person and has these virtues, he seeks God's honor, he's humble, modest, charitable, then like St. Vincent Ferrer, St. Benedict, and many other saints, then it's reliable. But if their life doesn't match, then it's very fishy. 4, quo modo, how is it done, the miracle?
If it was done in a manner that was shameful, violent, or unfitting, in paranormal states, drugs, true miracles done priorly, reverently, with great humility.
True miracles are done piously,
I see.
reverently, and with great humility. And usually the one who works the miracles is really embarrassed about them, doesn't even want to be known. So how was the miracle done? Under influence of hypnosis, for example. 5, quibus auxiliis. With what auxiliis helps? With what helps? Go on.
Was it done by the invocation of the divine name, or at least in the name of God the Creator, or with blasphemy, ridiculous things, such as cards or crystal balls?
Or tarot cards, yeah. Or Ouija boards. Then you know it's not reliable. 6, ubi. What's that mean, Michael?
Where?
Read on.
Was it done in secret or in an unworthy place, as happens with spiritists and such like?
7,
Quando, when? When there is no necessity or fittingness for a miracle, as happens in the prodigies of the fakers, is that how you pronounce it?
fakirs.
Fakirs and spiritists.
So when the miracle was done. Yes. So all these are 7 questions that the Pope and St. Thomas lay out as to testing if it's a miracle is true or not. C, psychological circumstances, for example, hypnotic states, spiritist mediums, exhausting emotions, mind control. But a true miracle only requires faith. One act of the will, done openly in public, no dark rooms, such as in the charismatic emotionalism done at the charismatic service at Steubenville, with waving their hands, clapping and barking and crawling on the ground. John V. Venara used to call it Stupidville. If all these circumstances taken together speak in favor of a miracle, it is morally certain, an extraordinary fact coming from God, at least immediately, namely through the good angels. The following principles must be observed. Bona ex integra causa, malum ex quacumque defectu, which means
It's good if all the causes are good, bad if there is any defect.
yes. So this is a very great axiom. Everyone say it. Bona ex integra causa.
Bona ex integra causa, malum ex quacumque defectu.
Again.
Bona ex integra causa, malum ex quacumque defectu.
Again.
Bona ex integra causa, malum ex quacumque defectu.
And it means what?
It's good if all the causes are good, bad if there is any defect.
Yeah, so you have an apparition. And the message is saying, pray the rosary. And people come and their chains of the rosary turn to gold. And the ladies are wearing veils. So there's some good signs there. But she says, as in Bayside, the apparition, stay in your parishes. God is not pleased with the new Mass, but stay in your parishes and suffer with him. So that tells you something's wrong here. Because if you go to your parishes, you're going to be going to the new Mass, and it's going to affect your faith. And we're not allowed by the first commandment to endanger our faith. So whenever there's a defect, an evil defect, you have to search that out. And that's a sign of the devil's tail. Right? When Trump did not put his hand on the Bible, that was a big clue. Something bad was coming. A huge clue. And he just dances to the tune of Netanyahu, poor soul. He sold his soul to Israel. Poor man. And destroying his own country in the process. So pray for him. Pray for his conversion. E. The probative force of miracles. The doctrine of the Church Vatican I, Denzinger in 1790, says most certain signs of revelation. Denzinger 1813, if not able to provide prove the origin of the Catholic, what's it say? If not able to prove the origin of a miracle, anathema sit. If you cannot prove the origin of the miracle, don't follow it. St. Pius X's Oaths Against Modernism says, most certain signs of the divine origin of the Christian religion and accommodated for all men, even of this time. The argument from a miracle to prove the divine origin of some doctrine is not a direct demonstration, as the immortality of the soul is proved from its spirituality, or the existence of God by the way of
Causality.
But it is an indirect demonstration from most certain signs, a posteriori, we would say, which shows a thing to be so, otherwise it would be absurd or impossible. What is directly manifested through a miracle is the intervention of the divine omnipotence, and indirectly from this is proved the divine origin of revealed doctrine. So a direct proof a priori is the immortal soul is proved from the spirit, the spiritual side of the soul. The direct proof of a miracle is a posteriori. I'm reading the notes on the side. God is the cause. An indirect proof is from most certain signs. From the effects you can conclude the cause, and the cause if it's from divine origin. So, number 2, proof. Major, minor, conclusion. Michael, major,
A miracle is an action proper to God.
minor,
Now, an action proper to God proves a revelation claimed to be from God if there is necessary connection between them.
conclusion.
A miracle proves revelation.
The connection of miracle to what it's proving can be done in 2 ways. A, implicitly, go on.
Where the connection is founded in the nature of the miracle, for example, the 4 marks of the church.
B, explicitly.
Directly, a miracle is worked directly as a guarantee of doctrine. If it is asserted clearly that a miracle is about to be performed for the express purpose of making known to all the divine origin of some truth. Thus, Christ healing Christ healing the
Oh, you don't have the rest of it?
no.
All right, here it is. Christ healing the paralytic said, "But that you may know that the Son of Man has power on earth to forgive sins, I say to thee, arise." Matthew 9:6. Matthew chapter 9, verse 6. So a miracle can be indirectly, a miracle which directly proves the divine mission of the messenger, who appealing to this as a proof of the divine origin of his doctrine. Thus, St. Paul defended the truth of his claim to be an apostle by appealing to the wonders that had accompanied his labors in 2 Corinthians 12:12. 2 Corinthians 12:12. So, name a miracle that St. Paul did. Anyone?
The raising of, I forget the young man's name, that he fell asleep during St. Paul's sermon and then he fell off the balcony. He died, and then St. Paul raised him from the dead.
Sure. What's another one on the island of Cyprus? They were building a fire. There were huge poisonous snakes on that island. And he went to reach for a piece of wood, and a snake bit him. Remember that?
Yes.
And they were waiting for him to die. They all knew that you only have a few minutes to live after getting bit by that snake. But St. Paul just kept loading wood on the fire and helping everybody get the fire going. And then they all just stopped and said, "You're either a god or some great missionary of God, prophet of God." And St. Paul set them straight. He says, "No, I'm not God. But if this miracle happened, it's to show you the true religion. And here it is." And he preaches Jesus crucified. Okay, so that ends the section on miracles. So if you can get anything from what we just covered, it is miracles are not to be believed lightly, nor excused or refused or dismissed lightly. But the church always weighs them carefully. And you know, it's probably a true miracle if the fruits are good. If it brings people to confession, brings them to repentance, brings them to the love of God, then it's usually good. Now we come to prophecy. So these are miracles, and prophecies are the great motives of credibility. Now we look at F, prophecy, an intellectual miracle. The definition, nominal definition of prophecy. Michael?
Propheta is from the Greek either profano, pronunciare, or from profanae, to foretell, not in a priority of time, but pro alio, as to signify he who speaks for another.
Okay. Well, here's what Father Gersbacher gave us. The Greek word for prophet, P is pi. That's the Greek word for prophet. Or to foretell a future event. So definition is from the Greek, either prophano, pronunciare, to announce ahead of time, or from prophani, to foretell, not in a priority of time, but pro alio, as for another, as to signify who speaks for another. One, in general, the minister of God is someone who receives a moral or religious instruction from God, such as Isaiah foretelling the virgin birth of Christ. Two, in particular, signifies one who has a foreknowledge divinely given in the foretelling of future events. So Daniel the prophet foretold Christ being rejected by the Jews, crucified, and the Roman armies coming and sacking them for their deicide. He foretold that 600 years before Christ. Two, the Catholic notion of prophecy as a motive of credibility. Prophecy, certa predictio, futuri eventus, qui ex causis naturalibus presciri nequit. Which means what, Anthony?
A certain prediction of a future event which cannot be foreknown by natural causes.
Everyone? What prophecy is?
A certain prediction of a future event which cannot be foreknown by natural causes.
Yes, so not even the devil can figure it out. The devil's smart, and he can make many good conjectures, but he cannot tell the true prophecy of a future event. It is not divination. Go on, Anthony.
Which is an excessive credulity of ancient peoples, nor merely a lively and firm religious faith, which announces with security the chastisement of the impious, the consolation of the oppressed just, the salvation of the penitent, and the kingdom of God through the conversion of hearts. But this does not require the miraculous intervention of God.
Eis certa seu infallibilis. Certain or infallible.
Not mere human conjecture, as seen by probability, or divination of spirits.
Right. So true prophecy is infallible, it's certain, but it's not just a human conjecture or demonic conjecture. B, predictio futuri eventus, which means
Contingent, strictly speaking.
Predictio futuri eventus.
That is the prediction of future events.
That is, id est.
That is contingent, strictly speaking, as what depends on free will, and not just contingent, widely speaking, such as a long life from a robust temperament.
This object can have 3 degrees. 1, 2, 3. 1, secundum locum. 2, propter defectum conditionis humanae. 3, propter suum indeterminationem. 1, as to the place. First degree, as to place of the prophecy. Go on.
Something which is far from the sense of knowledge of this man, but not from all men. Thus, Eliseus knew what Gazi had done in absentia,
In his absence.
in absence, 4 Kings 5:26, or when the thoughts of the heart are prophetically manifested to another, 1 Corinthians 14:24.
Okay, somebody look up 1 Corinthians 14:24. Someone look up 4 Kings 5:26. So as to the prophecy, as to a place. what do you have, Gabriel? There's no scriptures here?
No, that is the scripture that's usually there.
Alright, I have 4 Kings 5:26. But he said, was not my heart present when the man turned back from his chariot to meet thee? So now thou hast received money and received garments to buy olive yards and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and menservants and maidservants. But the leprosy of Naaman shall also stick to thee unto thy seed forever. And when he went out from him, a leper as white as snow.
All right, so Eliseus said something that he wasn't even there to witness. And then 1 Corinthians 14:24.
But if all prophesy, and there come in one that believeth not, or an unlearned person, he is convinced of all, he is judged of all. The secrets of his heart are made manifest, and so, falling down on his face, he will adore God, affirming that God is among you indeed.
All right, prophecy can be certain and infallible on account of the defect of human knowledge. And brother, number 2.
Thus those things which exceed universally the thoughts of all men, as the mystery of the Trinity.
And 3, on account of its indetermination.
As those things which are far from the knowledge of all men, that is,
Yes, that is.
future contingents, which are the most far, and therefore the proper objects of prophecy.
Yes. So future contingents, things that do not have to be. The sun will rise on June 30th. But is there going to be a rainy day or not? Nobody knows. 3, the possibility of prophecy. No creature can know the contingent future, says St. Thomas. Page 80, major, minor conclusion. Major, brother?
God knows those things which can be revealed to man.
Minor?
But God infallibly knows all future, free, contingent things.
Conclusion?
Therefore he can communicate to man the knowledge of future contingent things.
The proof of the minor?
If God did not know from eternity and infallibly all future contingent things, his knowledge would not be perfect, infinite but progressive, passing from potency to act, from imperfect to perfect. God would learn from things and be passively determined.
Okay, I'll pick up on next time on prophecy. Agitorium nostrum in nomine Domini.